career changes and career loss and just that uncertainty and job insecurity.
Yeah, yeah, that was a huge one, I think, from the very beginning, when people started to realize that this pandemic wasn't going away anytime soon. Now businesses were starting to dip into all of their savings that they had, dipping into their profits that they now needed to use to stay afloat, to eventually closing doors, having to cut staff because they couldn't afford to meet payroll, um, couldn't afford to pay for the lease of their office buildings. Then they had no more customers, right? Because everyone is having to quarantine. You know, restaurants, movie theaters, gyms. Anyone that has customer interaction pretty much lost their business, and a lot of them have closed their doors. And so I actually an opportunity to talk with one company in particular that didn't really do too much with helping their employees through the pandemic, because they didn't really know what to do, right? Again, just kind of what I said earlier, you don't know what you don't know. And so just focusing on the black and white, the logistics of the operation, and focusing on putting out that communication to their employees, and not really knowing how to deal with the mental and the emotional struggles that they themselves and their employees were going through. And so focusing, this is what we teach, right, in the grief recovery method, is that keeping busy piece, right? Or to grieve alone. And so, or to be strong, like those are the three things, the three myths that I feel like a lot of leaders were having to deal with, right? They had to be strong for their employees and their families. So they had to grieve alone because they couldn't let everyone know what they were going through, even if they were fearing what was in front of them, what was the unknowns. And then just keep busy and show that we're going to try and stay afloat as long as we can, for as long as we can. And so they were doing everything in their power. And so they were focused on all of that and not realizing the impact that the pandemic had on their employees from a mental and a emotional perspective, because it was out of sight, out of mind, right? Most people had to stay home. So it's like, guys, go ahead. It's okay. Just stay home. If your job allows you to work from home, then we're going to go ahead and set you up and do all these things, and focus on all of the mechanics of running an operation from your home and not really checking in on how you're doing. Well, what happened was, now the quarantine was lifting in their location. And so now it was like, okay, we're going to start incorporating business as usual, coming back into the office, and start opening up doors now to the business. And this is where the employees spoke up. I'm not coming back into the office. What have you guys done to make sure that we are going to be safe? Right. I have elderly parents that live at home, and I can't afford to be around coworkers that I'm not sure who they're around, and how do I know that they don't have the coronavirus, or customers that come in to our store or to our office. I don't have a babysitter because the daycares are still closed. It's still summer, schools are not open. So no, I can't come back into the office. And so there was this resistance now, because what was familiar to them became unfamiliar, right? So they shifted into this unfamiliar space of, what do you mean I've got to go back into the office? No way. It's not safe. You can't force me to come back into the office, right? And so there was now this dynamic that totally shifted, and now the leadership team said, what do we do now? Yes. Right? And so I got on a call with the HR team, and they're sharing all of this stuff with me, and I was like, oh my goodness, no one was prepared for this stuff, right? And so I had to literally, just help them to be able to pivot how they were going to make their employees feel comfortable, and then coming back into the office, acknowledge first where they were at. Like, how are you guys with all this, right? Where are you at, first of all, with your own feelings? Are you sharing some of these same sentiments? Elderly parents at home, no daycare for the kids, worried that a customer is going to come in with COVID-19, or maybe one of your employees, and then what's going to happen there? So what protocols, right, do you have in place for, like, the logistic pieces? I can't help you with that, right? Those are things that you can, that you're going to have to do, right? But what I can help you with is the emotional pieces and the mental well-being, and helping your employees to understand where they're at, and for you as leaders to be able to support and to acknowledge their space, right? So what can your operation afford? Can you afford to have half your employees home and half of them not? Can you afford to be flexible with those that say, I can't come in because I've got babysitting issues, or I've got elderly parent issues, or I got fear issues, right? Because those are
Yeah.
valid too.
Yes.
So what are you
Yeah.
doing with that? And then what are you doing to help your employees feel safe, right? Do you have safety protocols in place? Have you sanitized your office? Have you maybe rearranged the way the office looks so that you are adhering to the social distancing requirements? You know, so these are the things that you can calm fears if you're doing some of these things that are put in place, right? So I can't tell you what that looks like for your organization, but these are the things that your employees are wanting from you, right?
Yes.
To be able to
Yes.
calm those fears. And so, you know, I said, and as leaders, you need to be first. I said, we say this in grief recovery all the time. So before you ask your employees how they feel, you need to let them know how you feel. I'm scared too. You know what? I'm not sure what the future is going to look like for us. We all don't know, but this is what I can tell you, you know, and just be honest about where you're at. And so it has to start from the top, and you have to be on, you know, on the same page. You have to be unified in your in your in your message to your employees, right?
Yes.
Because if you've got one leader that says, "Oh, we're good," and another one that says, "No, we're not," now you're losing trust, because who do they listen to now, right? And so there was a lot of things that they needed to do to shift, to get themselves ready for the opening of their different stores, and things like that. And so it was a lot for them to think about. And what I was able to do for them was I was able to give them a like a self-care sheet, like a one sheeter, to help them help their employees and help themselves, right? So what are the things that you can do as human beings, not coworkers, not employees, but as human beings, to take care of yourself, right?
Yes.
Be honest about how you feel, right? If you're having a moment, know that it's okay. It's okay to have that. Sometimes you have to take a step away and take a deep breath, right? Maybe have a buddy, someone that you can count on within your organization, that you guys are looking out for each other. You know, because sometimes we said this earlier, right? Sometimes we're not honest with ourselves. Our emotional truth doesn't always come out, but someone that knows us is saying, your behavior changed a little bit. Is there something going on? You know, can I help you with something? Do you need to talk about something? And then that opens up that safe space for someone to say, yeah, you know what, I'm a little bit worried. You know, so-and-so was coughing the other day and they weren't wearing a mask. And so I was worried, because I was like, I wasn't even 6 feet away from them, right? That social distance. And I don't know, you know, I'm afraid, like, I don't know if I'm going to contract the virus, and I'm really scared. And they seem to not think that it was a big deal, but it was a big deal on me. You know, so just little things like that, where you can actually be open and honest and be okay with telling your emotional truth. Like, am I overreacting? Maybe I am, but this is how I feel, right? And so just to have that cheat sheet there, to be able to say, we need to take care of ourselves first in order for us to be able to be present, fully present for others. And then I did a video. So I did a video for the leadership team, and I talked to them about how they can be supportive for their employees. And it was all about going first as well, right? Taking care of yourselves. Come up with a strategy for the leadership team to make sure that you guys are there for each other, and maybe have to rotate, right? So that you're not burning yourselves out emotionally, and mentally, because you're having to deal with all of the fears and concerns that your employees are having. And so take turns, give each other some breaks as well, because you also need breaks. You know, you can't just sit here and run on empty and think that you can keep going and keep going and keep going because you're the leader. Because at the end of the day, you can't lead if you have nothing to give, right?
Yes.
And so I did a video to kind of help them through that, and it was amazing, because it helped them to be ready for the opening of some of their offices, and for the leaders to be able to reflect
That's
and to
wonderful.
be truthful about where each of them were at, to be
Yes.
supportive of each other, so that then that message translates down to the field.